Hey there. I gotta kind of explain things the way that I do these videos. Look, I know that I kind of stumble through them. You know, it's like I don't even have the words put together right. And I just kind of stumble through it, and I look kind of absurd, and I repeat the same things over and over and over again. Stuff like that. But, you know, I could edit this and make it look a lot better. You know, do it frame by frame and edit each sentence and then put it together to where it's more like how I've written things down on Tumblr. You know, that the thoughts are more sequenced and organized in a written form than they are in how I speak them. But the truth of this, the reason why I'm not really interested in editing, the reason why I just sit here like this and just be raw and real in front of the camera, is so that you know for certain that this comes from me originally. This is original thought here. This is not scripted, and I'm not putting it together from other sources from other people. This is truly from me. These ideas that I'm going over with, that I'm bringing forward to you in this way, these are truly from me. And this video set that I have here is proof of that. And thank God the technology exists for me to get it up on the internet to where it at least has the potential to be viewed. Now, the truth of all the things being what they are, and the fact, and that means the fact that there is a God. So the truth of all things being what they are, he will take these videos somehow, these ideas that I'm getting across here, and he will get them into society and to where they will have effect, to where they will have impact. Because I know that this is from God for real, the real God of creation, like the kind that the church is completely ignorant of and yet has been right there in front of them the whole time. That's what is so incredible about this, is how now I know the real truth. And this truth that I know can really push back against their judgments. And because they're wrong to do what they do, subvert the word in order to achieve a state of judgment over humankind, with them as the judge. That's enough of that, you know, seriously. If there ever is a lake of fire, they're the ones that are going to be in it, not the ones that they judge. That much is for certain. And so anyway, I want to, now that we have, you know, what is a statement of my authenticity in these, I want to start this video. I want to talk about basically money, the idea of wealth. And it's significant in this respect. For what these videos are about, it's significant because there's a guy by the name of Joel Osteen, who is some televangelist, who is a preacher of a mega church that probably has several $100 million a year in charitable donations. I mean, they have a stadium that he preaches in, and it's televised to, I don't know, probably, 130 billion countries in the universe? Whatever. And what he says, he has a message that says something along the lines that, see, I don't try to really remember what he says because that would be ridiculous. But I get the gist of it. And what he's trying to get at, he's said a lot of sermons on these ideas that wealth is a blessing from God, see? Because it's like he believes that his church has wealth because God has approved of his message, is what he says. And that's his, and he preaches from that standpoint, you know? And what this is that's 21st century church fashion. That is not divine truth. Because you see, that's the kind of church, those that, that is the kind of church that those who believe in the idea that money makes right would attend. And that's the kind of following he has. You know, money makes right. Well, see, there is a thing in the Bible where God says, along the line. It's in a parable, but basically it's and parable is nothing more than a frickin' illustration. So let's get this right. It is an illustration, and what God illustrates here is that a camel shall pass through the gates of heaven easier than a rich man, is what he's really saying. No, what he really said was a camel shall pass through the eye of a needle easier than a rich man shall pass through the gates of heaven. Now, he didn't really mean to imply that there was an actual heaven or that there were actual gates. What he meant was the real truth. And that is, if you're rich and you die, that's going to be hell upon you. Because all that you are is worldly. See? Even your personal identity of what you hold to be the truth of yourself as an individual is anchored and rooted in the physical world. So when all that is gone, what then are you? And therefore, that will be your place of basically hell. Excuse me for a second. And that really is how death will be hell upon you. Now let's look at someone who struggles to survive. A lot of people in this world, more so. Okay, now the truth of the numbers are this. I digress. So the truth of the numbers are this. 20 people in this period in human history have as much wealth as everyone else in the world. 20 people own 50% of the world's wealth, the world's riches. Now, there's a lot more poor people who aren't getting by, who suffer, than there are rich people. See, these 20 people, they are so astronomically rich that life is pointless for them. I mean, there is nothing that can interest them, nothing that can stimulate them. I mean, when you got everything, and what then is there left? You know? And when you're rooted in materialism, because that is your identity, then if wealth is your identity, well then, what will you be without it? And you will never know until you are without it. And you won't be without it until you arrive upon the plane of death, and then who will you then be? So you see, 20 people are going to be in hell really soon, where the rest, it seems like more and more the rest are really kind of more suffering than are not. And now, this is not a bad thing, in spite of what the Joel Ostens of the world may preach. God is in the least of these, because with the least of these, everything to them is a blessing. I mean everything. Like when you're a cigarette smoker and you don't have no cigarettes and you don't even have a dime to your name, a half an unsmoking cigarette found on the street is a blessing. See? So who would God be with? The Joel Ostens? Or the guy who thinks half a cigarette is a blessing? Now believe me, it's going to be with the guy who thinks half a cigarette is a blessing. Because then in that world, everything to him is a blessing. Where nothing to the Joel Ostens of the world, nothing is a blessing to them. And that is why the truth of God in this world is that he will always be with the least of these, and he will never be with the most of those. So with that, as short as this is, that's all I've got to say right now. So I'll see you in a little bit. Talk to you soon.